Okay, so insert music, insert intro, insert title yet to be named, such and such. Hey guys, welcome to the new show.
Yeah.
We haven't named it yet, because we're not even sure exactly what we're doing yet. It's just Slash and I here today.
Hello.
Yeah, like originally I wasn't sure if we wanted to call this like a mini cast or if we wanted to just file it under sideshow or what.
Dem guys randomness. I don't know. It's a pretty informal thing we're doing this week. We had planned to have a Minecon edition of the podcast, and we had guests lined up that had actually been to Minecon, because none of us had been to Minecon this year because it was overseas. And Drew was already planned an overseas trip for another part of the year, so...
Yep.
Yeah. But, unfortunately, Snowshoe is unavailable tonight, and our guests are unavailable, not feeling well, so I hope she feels better. But, we decided that to entertain you guys this week, rather than just not have a podcast, we'd have a short little random thing to discuss. And as we were prepping, I found what is called the Book of Awesome Questions.
I didn't realize that's what it was called.
Oh, apparently it's just called the Book of Questions. It was linked to as the Book of Awesome Questions, but it's by Gregory Stock, PhD.
Oh.
And, it's a PDF. It's actually, well, I'll put a link in the description, but it's actually a PDF you can look at freely online. And there's 217 questions, that are on this, in this book. And then some of them have follow-on questions that you can choose from optionally. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to just generate a bunch of random numbers in that range, and we would just, sight unseen, go to the questions that match those numbers and discuss those as topics until we've filled like 20-30 minutes.
Yes.
So, if that doesn't sound interesting to you, feel free to wait until the next real podcast episode.
Yeah, we all know Snow is your favorite because he is a lot more energetic. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try to sound energized. I'm energized inside, trust me. But apparently
he feels it. He just doesn't show it. It's all good.
I was just gesturing. So,
I was gesturing too. I don't know why.
So I just don't sound like it, I guess.
I was pulling my hands away from my chest like I was, emoting, but whatever.
Yeah.
So the first question that we are going to take a look at in this book, feel free to follow along at home. We're going to scroll down here to number 169, which is 13 squared, incidentally. And this is a short one. It asks, how many times during the day do you look at yourself in the mirror?
Oh. Oh boy.
I would say, let's see, every morning when I first get up, as I'm, just grooming for the day, I would look at myself in the mirror. I always look myself in the mirror when I have used the bathroom at work because the mirrors are right there at the sink when I'm washing my hands. Probably use the bathroom 3 times. I don't know. Maybe in a day. I'm gonna go with probably on average like 5. It seems about right for me.
Yeah. I don't know, because it really, pretty much anytime I go to the bathroom, I'll see myself in a mirror. But, I mean, there are days when I go, like, if I'm not actually doing anything that day, there are days that I go without, like, intentionally looking in the mirror. It's just kind of there. But, like, I don't know. There are times when I look in the mirror intentionally because I'm, like, have to trim my beard or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But, so...
Yeah.
So, it depends. If it's intentional, then it's maybe, like, 5 times a week. If it's unintentional, then, yeah, it'd probably be more like 5 or 6 times a day.
Yeah, I guess it would be the difference between looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing yourself in the mirror. Because looking at yourself implies, like, a deliberate act. Like, I choose at this point to be gazing upon my own face in this reflective surface.
I just realized days that I work I see myself in the mirror a lot more because at the front end of where we work, there's like the photo lab right by the cash registers, and there's like a reflective glass, so like when you're in the photo lab, you can see out, but you can't really see in,
Right.
and so I see myself a lot in that one. But yeah.
I have a feeling if Snowshoe was here, he would answer with something like 50. I feel like he probably looks at himself quite a bit in the mirror. All right, well, next question is just 2 down from that, and this one's kind of a sad one, I think. 171. Would you prefer to be blind or deaf?
I feel like we've answered this before.
We might have. That might have been a listenership question. It's a horrible thing to even contemplate, but I feel like I would be able to manage life easier deaf than blind, especially considering that I work with computers for a living as well as for a hobby. I mean, there are programs that can, help people that are visually impaired, make use of a computer, that can, dictate the parts of the screens out loud and what button are you hovering over and that sort of stuff. But, I don't know. I feel like I would do better deaf. I wouldn't really be able to do the podcast anymore though.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be able to hear the rest of the schmucks.
Unless we...
Oh, no, it's debatable. Is that really that bad of a thing? I don't know.
Well, I was going to say we could get some sort of speech to text, so it's while we're talking, it's just appearing on the screen.
Or I just make you guys type into the Skype chat as you talk.
This is what the podcast would sound like, okay? It would be, okay, I am typing to you now.
Don't forget you would hear,
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, I was doing that, so if you couldn't hear me, then...
Oh, okay.
It's just...
You've got a laptop keyboard,
yes.
right? It's a little quieter than a typical keyboard.
Well, then it'd also be like if you mess up the typing and realize that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me fix that. Anyway.
What about you? Blind or deaf, Drew? What do you think?
While I do like sign language and I would want to learn it, I don't think that I would rather be deaf. I think I'd rather be blind because, well, one, I would... See, it's hard to say. I mean, from right now, I think I'd rather be blind, whereas if it was, from birth, it would probably be very different. I don't know how it... I mean, if it was from birth, I wouldn't know what it was like to have one.
It's true.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know what you were missing.
Exactly. But I think,
bluntly.
For one thing, I like being able to talk to people and hear them. And I also like listening to music a lot. And and then as far as blindness, I've seen some cool stuff where it's just or heard about blind people who all of their other senses are so heightened to compensate. So just I think being aware of so many little sounds or feelings that we don't necessarily notice because we're seeing stuff. Yeah.
Did you hear about the guy? There's at least one guy, and there may be more folks that are like this, that are talented like this, but there's at least this one guy who is completely blind, but he maneuvers himself around via echolocation. He clicks his tongue, and based on the echoes that he can hear, he knows not only that there's an obstacle nearby, but he knows, okay, that's, a brick wall, as opposed to, a concrete wall.
Yeah.
Because they reverberate slightly differently. It was really fascinating. It was on, I forget whether it was, Superhumans, the Stan Lee produced show, or whether it was something similar.
Okay.
But it was an episode of that was talking about. And they were showing how his son, who can see perfectly fine, but his son would actually put on, a blindfold and teach himself how to use this echolocation thing. And it was just really remarkable to see them maneuvering their way through, they had basically a minefield, more or less, of just a bunch of obstacles in the way, and, they he had no previous experience going through this obstacle course and managed to maneuver through it without using a cane or anything like that. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah, when you said did you hear about this guy? I was picturing Daredevil. That's
Well, I was thinking that whenever you're talking about other senses heightened, I could be like, you could be Marvel's Daredevil. But then I remember the other guy, and that guy amazes me even more because he's not in a comic book.
Yes.
He's a real life dude.
But yeah. So now I'm picturing doing like you haven't seen the show yet, have you?
I saw a little bit of the Netflix show.
Okay. Yeah. There's this one scene that I thought was kind of interesting, where the guy gets, he gets like a beer out of the fridge, and then he pops the top off, and it like bounces off the wall and like another surface and something else, and then just lands perfectly in the trash can. Like, like just by him popping the top off, he like aimed it perfectly, and I was just like,
"That's awesome.
That'd be a nice skill to have."
That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look at this next question. We're going to jump all the way up to question number 14 in the document, which reads, would you rather be extremely successful professionally and have a tolerable yet unexciting private life, or have an extremely happy private life and only a tolerable and uninspiring professional life?
Well, I was going to say absolutely the second one, except that uninspiring is not a word that I like. Because like... here, let me scroll to it. I want to read exactly. Because it says extremely successful. I feel like you don't have to, like, I don't feel like the opposite of extremely successful has to be like a dull job.
Right, agreed.
Because like you could be like barely making enough to live on, but still really love what you do. Like, I feel like a lot of artists are like that kind of, and I mean that's kind of what I'm aiming towards right now. Is I have an idea for like possibly my own business or something, which I have no idea if it would do well, or if it would even be something that I could do, or I might just have to find something else instead. But if it did come off like it's what I love to do, and so, which I guess I might as well say, since I'm being very vague about it, I want to be a lore writer. Basically, I love creating worlds and characters and backstories, especially like fantasy type worlds. And and I'm not that great at actually writing novels. I've tried, and I'm really bad at the transitioning from like one part to the next, which is also evidenced in the podcast.
I was gonna say nobody has ever seen any reason to believe that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, but I think it'd be fun to create worlds and characters and stuff. And then I could just work on my own and then possibly like sell those ideas to people, or someone could come in and say, "Hey, I am working on this. Would you help me fill out the world and create that kind of stuff?" And so, like, whether it's like an author working on a book series, or it's a video game company and they're making an open world fantasy game, I would love to do any of that kind of stuff. And I actually did. My friend Econ is going to be doing a LARP, and
oh wow,
yeah, she asked me to help her make her character. But it wasn't so much like I was expecting, almost like D&D style stats and stuff. But no, it was more she actually wanted to create like her own country that she came from, and like this whole culture and stuff that didn't already exist. And so we spent like 3 hours in a Skype call making that, and I love doing that stuff.
That's cool. My little brother-in-law, he's pretty much into the exact same thing. I think he's very much into English, and he's very much into history, and I think he's going for an English major in college this fall. And I think that's that would be like his dream job, would be to write lore, write backstory, write that sort of thing, for RPGs or what have you. So that's kind of funny,
yeah.
To hear you describe that, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know someone else who's very much like that. So. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, to me it boils down to, would you rather have a happier home life or a happier work life? And I definitely have a happier home life.
Yeah.
Because work doesn't last forever, but home should.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it comes down to as simple as that. So the next one we're going to look at is number 200. I actually skipped a couple of the ones that random.org suggested that we look at because some of them are like intense and don't really fit the tone of our podcast. So number 200 is very simple. It says, in conversations, do you tend to listen more or talk more? And for me, I would say it depends mainly on the topic. If it's something that I'm really passionate about, I can talk and talk and talk and forget that there's actually anybody else involved in the conversation. But otherwise, I probably spend on average, I probably spend more time listening in a conversation than I do talking.
Yeah. So when you said that, I was like, okay, should I wait and let him talk first, or should I just like jump right in and start talking? Yeah, it really depends for me. I certainly used to be a lot quieter, and just like not really talk a lot because I was shy. But yeah, if we start talking about something that I'm like really passionate about, I'll just like talk and talk and talk, and then sometimes I sometimes do have trouble with listening because like someone will like I'll say something and then they'll kind of jump in and be talking, and I'll just be thinking like, okay, I have something I want to add to that. I don't want to stray too far away because I really want to add this. Right. I don't know if that has anything to do with like I don't know, when I was like younger, like if I like got interrupted because I was the youngest sibling. I don't even know. I'm making stuff up. But yeah, so I would say that in a lot of cases I would rather be doing the talking. Gotcha.
All right. Let's see here. What is next in our list? It's amazing how many of these I've felt like skipping. I think a lot of these would make for great topics in a different context.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a lot. Okay, well, here, I'm just gonna, since you're just looking, I'm gonna grab one, number 43. I decided
43, oh yeah, sure.
I decided to scroll to that. And the question is, when were you last in a fight? Who caused it and who won? And I've never really been like in a physical fight, so I'm guessing so I'm thinking more of like a verbal debate.
Right.
Oh boy. I just read it. I had no time to actually think about it. If you can think of something, go ahead.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was the only physical confrontation I can ever remember getting into was, oh my gosh, it must have been like some summer in my middle school years. So we're going back quite a ways. I was in Boy Scouts, and I was at Boy Scout camp, which was a week-long retreat thing. And there was another kid there that had really, really annoyed me. And generally, we had one of those relationships where we could be friends, but sometimes we were arch enemies, depending on the context.
Yeah.
I guess, the circumstances. And in this case, it was the latter. And he had said something super irritating, and he turned and he started walking away. And I was so upset with him. I ran up and I punched him in the back.
Wow.
Like, right between the shoulder blades, basically. It was like the dumbest place to punch a person.
Yeah.
But what made it worth it was the fact that because I caught him so off guard, and because of the fact that I hit him where I hit him, he squeaked. Because he involuntarily, like, exhaled, and he made this hilarious squeaking noise, and I busted up laughing. It was so funny. And that's all that came of it. Like, there were no further blows exchanged. It was just like, he really irritated me. Bam! Squeak! Ha ha ha! And then we moved on.
That's funny. Okay. Sorry. I got briefly distracted because I saw an asterisk next to some of the questions, and I'm like, why is that there? What does that indicate? And so I was trying to find what the asterisk is for. But, When I was younger, I had Sorry, yeah, I can't think of a recent fight necessarily. When I was younger, I've never been like a very physical activities person, like sports and stuff. I was like sometimes I'll play, but I usually feel like stopping sooner than everyone else, and especially stuff like football where it's more like physical contact and stuff. I don't like that type of stuff because I'm just not as strong as a lot of other people. So when I was younger, I also had a pretty short temper, especially when it came to my brother. He knew how to push my buttons, and he actually has told me, which this made me mad at him when I was younger. He told me that that it was very easy to annoy me, and he knew that, and he thought it was funny. When I got angry, but
Right.
he called me the Hulk a couple of times because of this. Because he would do something that would be like he's just playing around, but like he'd come up behind me and like just like grab me from behind kind of thing. And like I said, he's just playing around. He never hurt me or whatever. But
Right.
I didn't think that was funny. I didn't enjoy that. And so there were several times where I would very much overreact. And he said one time apparently he came up and grabbed me from behind, and I'm trying to remember. I think he said that I like elbowed him in the gut and then spun around and like shoved him against the wall really hard or something. And so yeah, that happened. But recently, probably just like more verbal debates. And I am someone who, if I know I'm right and I try to explain to someone why they're wrong rather than just letting them think that they're right or whatever.
Right.
And which there have been a couple of occasions where I'm positive that I'm right and it turns out I'm wrong. And if someone does show me the proof, then I'll be like, okay, whatever. But I get very frustrated when I'm like, this is absolutely, I know for a fact this is true, and the other person's like, nope, you're wrong. And I'm like, no, it's true, and here's why, and yeah.
I don't know why this brought this to mind, but this reminds me of, there was a scene in a Simpsons episode where the like scientist character is in some sort of convention or room filled with other scientists, and they're all talking amongst themselves, and there's a whole bunch of clamor and chaos and whatnot, and all of a sudden the scientist shouts out, "Pi is exactly 3!" And everybody goes, "Ah!" Like turns to look at him all aghast all at once. And he goes, "I'm sorry I had to resort to such extreme measures, but I needed your attention."
Oh, man.
Alright, well, I think, we'll probably make this the last question. I found this one to be actually kind of an interesting, open-ended question. So we'll end with this. We'll leave this for you guys on the listenership to contemplate as well. And maybe if you want to comment below the video what your answer is, that could be interesting reading for everybody else as well. But here it is. It's number 209 in the book of questions. If you could script the basic plot for the dream you will have tonight, what would the story be?
Oh, man.
I would love to do this, and there are some people that don't have necessarily that ability, but they're able to practice what's called lucid dreaming, where they in the dream they become aware that it is a dream, and then they're able to shape the direction the dream goes. They basically, have godlike power to do whatever they want and fly around and that sort of stuff. I rarely remember my dreams, so probably doesn't matter what the plot would be.
I was gonna say Rooster Teeth has a sponsor that has, it's not like, it's, I don't know what to call it, but it's basically, it's something that you take before you go to bed, and it actually helps you like lucid dream and like remember your dreams and stuff, and I mean, they've given it high reviews. I don't think I'd ever try anything like that, because to me that's too weird to like take something that actually like affects you're like I also don't know that I'd ever take like sleeping pills or something. Just anything that affects your sleep is a little too weird to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would absolutely if like I could actually like take part in the worlds that I've created. Like I would basically just like take like a D&D campaign or just some story idea that I've worked on in my mind, and I would actually like play it out in my head with me as one of the characters and get to like live in that world kind of thing.
That's cool. That would be very cool. I feel like, have you ever heard of the book Ready Player One?
I don't think so.
It's a very good book. It's got a lot of geeky references in it, some of which might be a little bit before your time. But the concept of it is that there's this virtual reality world that pretty much everybody plays. Think like Facebook on steroids. Okay. Everybody's in this thing. And it's filled with all sorts of like gaming and pop culture references, and like I'm trying to remember some of the stuff that's in there. I mean, there's the main character. The first challenge he has to overcome in what turns out to be like the epic quest of the book is he ends up, I think he ends up basically in the Tomb of Horrors module from Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, wow.
But when he goes up against like Asarak or whatever the guy's name is, the guy, instead of fighting him, challenges him to a game of like the original Donkey Kong arcade game or something. It's some arcade game. It might not have been Donkey Kong, but it's some classic arcade game that he had to play and beat to move on. But I mean, that gives you sort of the baseline. But that world has like the one guy has like the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and
that's
like,
awesome.
The guy has the ability to become Ultraman, and like. I mean, it's absolutely, it's chock full of all sorts of like Transformers stuff is in there. I mean, everything that you could possibly think of. A lot of 80s stuff, a lot of pop culture, a lot of geeky things are in there. And I think that's the sort of dream that I would like to have. You know, I would like to have a dream where, you know, I can be, the pilot of, a transforming spaceship robot thing, and, you know, but I can also fly around on my own if I want to, and I can travel through time and space, and, you know, like, that's the sort of thing that I would want. I would want to just, like, mash up all my favorite things from all of my favorite shows, and be in utter command of all of them.
Yeah, that does sound awesome.
Yeah, and I highly recommend that book. I even, you know, I mean, most of the references I think you'll still get, and even the ones you don't get, because I didn't get all of them, but even the ones you don't get, you really appreciate, just as being general geekdom.
Yeah.
So
that does sound
And
awesome.
there's an audiobook narrated by Will Wheaton if you want to go that route. So.
I've never really done an audiobook, like, other than like when I was really like a lot younger. Like I listened to a couple of books on tape. Like I listened to some of the Chronicles of Narnia, but I also read them, and I found that I preferred reading the books to just listening to them. So I've never really done that. And I'm sure there could be things that make it fun. Like Stephen Colbert came out with a book.
I Am America and So Can You. That's one of them.
Oh, really? Okay, well, his first one was I Am a Pole and So Can You.
Oh, no, that was the kids' book.
Well, it's not really for kids, because it's...
Well, it's in a kid's book style.
Yes.
Yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about. Anyway, but apparently there's an audiobook of it, and it's read by Tom Hanks, but it actually says read by Tom Hanks with interruptions by Stephen Colbert. And so, like that kind of thing can add some humor to the audiobook, but I would still probably want to read the book myself.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You know, some of those types of books, because they have like little margin things and like, you know, did you know type, you know, segments that are separate from the main content of the book but are sort of related, or, you know, a subtopic or whatever. I've always wondered how those sorts of things translate to audiobook form, but most of all, I wonder how the book S translates to audiobook form. I mentioned S on the podcast, like, I feel like it was episode 2 of the podcast, possibly episode 3, because that was the book I had gotten for Christmas 2 years ago, and it's the one Douglas Adams is involved in, and I forget what the actual author of it was, like Douglas Prost or something like that.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this book.
Yeah, where the book itself is actually The Ship of Theseus by a fictional guy named V.M. Straka, who in this fictional universe is in fact that's like his pseudonym or his pen name that he's writing under. And you're reading this library book that these two other people wrote margin notes to each other back and forth. And they write them in different time frames. Like there's an early time frame, like a middle time frame, a later time frame, and like the end time frame. There's like 4 different time frames in which they're writing these notes to each other, and they crisscross because sometimes they'll like write notes about their own notes. Okay. Like, I can't believe we thought that, you know, or you know, how naive were we, kind of thing, you know. And I've always kind of wondered, because after I finally finished it, I was on vacation this past week, and I finally finished it. And as I'm putting it back in its sleeve, and I'm just kind of like looking at it and processing everything that I've just read, I see a note saying, you know, the audiobook is available through whatever distributor. And I'm like, how do you turn this into an audiobook? I mean, there's like 8 different things going on simultaneously in this book. How do you choose what to focus on at any given moment in the audio version? And how do you delineate, like, okay, and now this is a note from Jen, and it's in blue ink, as opposed to the red ink she uses later.
Wow.
Or the purple, you know, it's like, yeah. So, I do kind of wonder what that, what that audiobook's gotta be like.
Yeah.
But, the book itself was fantastic. I absolutely recommend, that's 2 book recommendations for me, but I don't care. I recommend Ready Player One, and I recommend S.
Yeah, I just looked. It was episode 3 of the podcast.
Oh, there you go.
I was reminded of Llama Plop. Whatever you talk about going away, I'm just gonna think of Llama Plop now. But that made me think of I saw a really funny story on or not a funny story. It was from like the Shower Thoughts subreddit, which, by the way, I've recently become addicted to Reddit. So, but there was a really funny Shower Thoughts post, which was, someone pointed out, he said something like, in all of the 30 years of my life, I've never seen a squirrel go to the bathroom. And that's totally true. I see squirrels like almost every day. I've never seen one go to the bathroom. And then he continued with, you see a horse maybe twice a year, and every time you see it, it's taking a dump. And I was, and then it was really funny because all of the comments were like, you clearly don't live around Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is somewhat near me. And so I'm like, that's actually true, because if you did, there's like, because that's like all the Amish horse and buggies, and it's just like farm country, and there's horse poop all along the road.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, but then I also love, the other thing I love about Reddit is just that, like, the posts are awesome. Half the time the comments are better, because like there will be that thing where it's like someone says something like, you obviously don't live near Lancaster, and then there's like a series of following comments that aren't even about the original post. It's now a new conversation that started about like, oh wow, I didn't realize so many Redditors were from Lancaster. Because there's like tons of people talking about that and agreeing with it. Or like someone will make a joke, and then someone's response to the joke is even better. Sorry, this is the last one, and we can end. One of the other Shower Thoughts. I don't remember if I brought this up on the podcast before or not. One of the other Shower Thoughts was a ton of people would actually only be about 12 to 13 people.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, it wouldn't be a whole lot of people.
Yeah. But the top comment on that post was, or just your mom. And then all of the comments after that were just like, burn! Like, nobody even commented on the original post. It was... I found that amazing. That is the internet.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I like that quite a bit.
Okay, well, I think it's about time to finish up. If you guys want to leave a comment, I guess we didn't do email address or whatever, but that's not a big deal.
Yeah, it'll still be staring you in the face in the video screen.
So yeah, if you guys want to leave a comment or whatever, I think we should do. You guys should comment. Well, not only you can answer some of the questions if you want. Just I guess tell us which question you're answering, or else we might get very confused. But you can leave a suggestion for what to call this show if we do continue it.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Slash is going to name it Unnamed Show Episode 1.
Untitled number 1. Yep. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening. We did get one question for the podcast, but since this isn't the podcast, that question's just going to have to wait.
Yes.
Aw, so sad. Too bad. But again, the book that we were grabbing these questions from is linked to in the description. So feel free to go pull that up if you're ever looking for a conversation topic with someone, because we needed like 5 or 6 of them.
And there are over 200.
And there are over 200. All right. Well, we'll see you next time, hopefully with an actual podcast. Until then, everybody take care.
Bye.
Bye.